Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural stream of the S&S Show podcast. It is so wonderful to have you all here. Along with me is my co-host, esteemed Warhammer 40K playing gentleman, and a close personal friend of mine, the Smed head. Smed, introduce yourself to the folks.
Thank you, ST. Glad to be here. So happy to do this for everybody that loves 40K. We're going to jump right into it, especially from the last ITC tournament of last weekend, and tell you about all the new armies that are starting to take over.
Fantastic. Yeah, like he was saying, we hopped in on a tournament last weekend. Spent about a solid almost 10 hours gaming.
Yeah, yep. We left the store about a little after 10:30.
And I think they got the tournament going. We had a 45-minute lunch break. Tournament got started right about noon. So it was something else, man. There were knees hurting, backs hurting, feet swelling. It was a good time had by all, I'll tell you that much. Absolutely enjoyed the heck out of it. Smed, why don't you get us started with what you saw in the tournament?
Well, I'll tell you the first thing I noticed was out of the 12 people in the tournament, there were 5 full demon armies now. That seems to be the new thing instead of, running big knights or, anything gargantuan like that. And the other one was half demons and half Nurgle. So as you can see where I'm coming from, the Plague Bearer bomb is taking over.
Absolutely. And let's face facts here. Plague Bearers are tough, man. I mean, they're coming in at a toughness 4 or 5?
Toughness 4, but when you take the special characters with them, you can make them -1 to hit, and you can make their invulnerable a 4+. Plus, they get the disgusting resilient, which is a 5. So it's really hard to kill 60 of those.
Yeah, 5+ feel no pains are no joke. It's really tough too because with those rolls, you're getting it against mortal wounds, and from everything I've seen playing, mortal wounds are really, really, really critical to a lot of stuff. The more you can put out, the better you are. And for things that can just outright ignore them and act like they didn't even happen, that's powerful. That's dangerous.
Absolutely. And the other thing about all those demon armies that showed up was the amount of psychers.
Oh God, tell me about it.
All were matched with Zinch psychers. I mean, you saw everything from Lord of Change, Ironmans, Sorcerers and Terminator armor, as many demon princes as they could field. I mean, it is unimaginable. Plus, even some had bloodletter bombs, which everybody knows is really hard to stop with a 3d6 charge at -3, 2 damage on every roll of a 6.
Yeah, yeah, it's those freaking Hellblades they use, man, and that 3d6 charge is absolutely nasty. I mean, it's you can pretty much bet on at least a 9-inch charge with that. Rarely are you going to see somebody roll triple ones or anything like that unless they're just having a bad day and the RNG gods, the dice gods, have turned on them, which it'll happen. It'll absolutely
It
happen.
happens all too often to me, it feels like.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I stopped running Terminators a couple of editions ago, or running them so heavily rather. Was just when you're rolling nothing but ones for every armor save that's coming up, and it's just like, why am I even playing with these guys? What's even the point?
Well, and now in 8th, with the new smite ability, Terminators, even with your 2+, 3+ Thunderhammer guys, there's really not much you can do when somebody's throwing out, 4 or 5 smites a turn on mortal wounds that you can't even save against.
Right.
It totally changes the game.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And that's one thing I did see, and I think one of the guys that placed really highly absolutely smashed his first opponent, who was running a Gilliman Ultramarines army, and this guy who did well was running Sons of Medusa. Now, that is an Iron Hand successor chapter, and they come automatically with a 6-up Feel No Pain. So, not as good as the Disgustingly Resilient, but they are resilient. So, and that's tough. When you've got Space Marines who are ignoring your smite abilities, that's pretty nice, especially if they're running all Primaris.
Definitely, that is huge. And like you said, if you are running Space Marines, having Primaris is one of the must things to do on most of the factions.
This is very true, and the army I run is Raven Guard now, and I'm a Salamanders fanboy down to my core, but it just not as good as they were in, say, 5th edition, when Meltaguns, Flamers, and Thunderhammers were all master crafted. So you were just upping your ability to absolutely destroy stuff.
Oh, definitely. Well, it's not just that. It's, now with 8th, they took away blast templates, and that really changes the game on how you set up on, everything, with the D6 shots now, and, with Flamers. And that's what makes like the Zinch Flamers really, really nasty, because they got a 12-inch move. They can jump out and hit you with, if you got a squad of 7, lucky number, you're putting out D6, 7d6 shots.
Yes.
At strength 5-1 that automatically hit.
Yes.
I mean,
and
it's hard to ask for more than that.
It is, man. And I'm surprised I haven't seen more Flamers run, but I guess with the way people are doing Zinch armies, so many Zangors and Horrors, and then just a whole buttload of Psychers.
Yes, pink horror bombs are big, because if you have 20 or more, it's 3 shots a piece. I mean,
yes.
It's hard to beat for the points cost.
It really is. So if one thing I found, if there's gonna be some horrors charging at you across the field, if you're kind of a gunline army, peck away at them with your small stuff. Go for the number of shots. I turn 1 against my first opponent, and I believe your second opponent, right, Chase?
Third. Third? Yes. Todd was my third. Yes.
And Todd, good player. He knew what he was doing, and he beat me 15-18 in the first match I played, and it was probably one of the most well-fought, hard-fought matches I've ever had. But he dropped in. He had a 25 blob, a 30 blob, and then he had, I think,
He had 2 squads of 15 Zangors as well.
Yes, and then he had a small unit of horrors that he was using to like stay back on objectives, and he was taking engineers with it.
Correct.
Which is very smart to do. That's easy points, and that was really what put him over the top on me. It would have been like 15-16 if he hadn't had engineers, or maybe 15-15. It may have ended with a tie, because those engineers every turn he was getting a victory point. So. After the first turn, second, third, and fourth turns, he was getting a victory point, and then we wound up timing out. But it was very interesting because he was running those blobs. The Zangors, he wound up flanking me, took some of my shooting out of commission while they dealt with them in hand-to-hand. And he had a Lord of Change, Ahriman, 2 Demon Princes of Zinch, a Chaos
Terminator Sorcerer,
and then a regular Sorcerer. So,
correct.
6 characters that are Psychers just flying around, doing smite, being the little suckers that they are. And it was tough, man. It was tough. There was a lot of sorcery in the air, and I didn't have a librarian. I never take one for Space Marines most of the time, unless you're running 3 to take advantage of that council or the librarius or whatever stratagem it is. It's kind of not worth taking librarians in a Space Marine army, other than the Phobos librarian, because that is an awesome selection of powers. That is an awesome discipline that he has.
It is, but also though his powers only work on Phobos armored Marines.
Yes.
That's one thing you need to know. You can't just take him and put him, use his conceal power on, a Predator or a Devastator squad. It has to be something wearing Phobos armor.
Right. Which I imagine him in conjunction with the Reavers, because they're already, they've got some stuff that makes it hard for units to overwatch on them and stuff like that, or just I think they deny overwatch completely if they score an unsaved wound on an enemy. I think is their special rule. Yeah, it's pretty nasty. And then if anything else decide, they can multi-charge if they have to. So just stacking stuff like that, it does make it very interesting. And really, that's the big thing with 40K. You can do fluffy missions and have fun with like lore stuff and things like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But on the tournament scene, you've really got to math it out. You've got to be thinking, okay, what can buff this? What can buff this? And that was one thing I was really interested in with this edition, was things like the re-rolls on ones for captains, or re-rolling all your misses in shooting and attacking with chapter master and stuff
definitely.
like that.
Yes, yeah. Like your Raven Guard army, I love it because you take advantage of all that with making your captain a chapter master for all your re-rolls for your gun line, and then you have a lieutenant to re-roll all your wounds of one, and you have your chapter ancient, so if anybody dies, they have a chance to shoot before they even die, not in your turn, which is a nasty, nasty combo. And then having an apothecary there, they could possibly bring him back the next turn.
Yes.
Like that's very dangerous. And I love it. I love it.
It's fun. It's very fun. And then with Raven Guard, having that -1 to hit me if you're 12 inches or more out, that is a big benefit to Space Marines, because while they are very good in a general sense, there are situations that can absolutely mess them up. There are elite units from other armies, other factions, that can totally just wipe the floor with Space Marines, and the Raven Guard abilities just give you a little bit more survivability.
Absolutely, and that's why in my Eldar army, I do the Alatoic.
Mm-hmm.
That -1 comes in handy so much.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
But I, of course, I learned, this past tournament that the Wave Serpent spam is something to deal with. It's no joke. It's an army I built overnight. I mean, you were there,
mm-hmm.
and we both tied for 5th place.
Yes.
Because we both had that. It's just I have so much movement and so many mortal wounds I could throw out. I could take out all the bloodletter bombs and all the demons. I just couldn't get to the characters.
Right.
Because there's so many of them.
And that's another thing I've really noticed. In a lot of armies, there are a good few characters.
That's where the buff combos come in. Like you said, on almost every army.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Imperial Guard, Space Marines, Eldar. I guess Eldar is not as buffy on characters, but demons, like I said, it all adds up so fast, and you just don't realize how much just 1,000 points of your 2,000 point army can do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and that's another big thing, and it's really like you were talking about with the meta earlier, with all the demons and everything. Just a few months back, it was all about the knights. It was all about the super heavies.
Everybody had at least 2.
Mm-hmm.
At least 2.
And now, since their nerf has come down the pipe, they're not as survivable. They're not as durable as they once were with the knights. Now, some of the other super heavies, like Bane Blades and all their different variants, they are still scary as all get out. And
I'll also give it to the Chaos Imperial Knights now, because, being able to have the 2 cannons, on each one, they have multiple choices, unlike the Imperial Knights.
Yes.
Which gives them a better advantage, honestly. You don't have to split your shots up. You can choose, this knight is targeting, elite heavy units like Wolfen, that a lot of Space Wolves players run. They have at least 2 squads of Wolfen, if not 3, because why wouldn't you? It's a 3+3+, and a Feel No Pain that can move, advanced, and charge.
Yes. Absolutely nasty. And it's a little points heavy, but, that's your Death Star. And if you're backing them up with characters that absolutely buff the heck out of them even further, you'd be stupid not to do something like that. You'd really be crazy not to.
Now, the one army that I believe we both played, which was against Rick Weiss, who had the Imperial Guard, he did have that Bane blade, and he had an Imperial Knight, but nobody else had brought anything big for him to shoot with, and it really went to his disadvantage, especially playing us being at -1 if you're more than 12 inches away.
Right.
So everything he had was hitting us on 5s. It really, really hurt his army because he has a really good list, but it's made for big stuff.
Yes, and that was the drawback. I think, honestly, in my opinion, even if he'd run 2 knights, he'd have come out better, because that was the one drawback I saw with the I guess the Shadow Sword is the big one with the volcano cannon on it.
Yes, sir. I believe so.
Okay, and that one, he played it smarter against me than he did you, mainly because I'm not, my force is not mobile. I am a straight gun line. I've got 3 units that really move, and 2 of them are characters. Or I could say 4 units, and 3 of them are characters. But that's about it. You know, that's as good as it really gets for me as far as moving stuff up and getting in your face. Now, it's a unit of 6 aggressors with the auto bolt storm gauntlets and the frag launchers, which is...
Well, followed up by a captain with an apothecary and an ancient, so...
Yes.
It's hard to get rid of them all, and when that's thrown in your face, that's something you have to deal with, which leaves you, the rest of your gun line in the back to go to town.
Yes. And the gun line is very effective. And it was, in fact, it was not my heavy weapons that brought down the knight at the end of the game. It was hurricane bolters and heavy bolters from my 2 Centurion squads, 3 apiece. And boy, it was just nasty, especially paired up with the Chapter Master with the Storm of Fire ability, which adds a -1 AP modifier to every shot. So, you know, heavy, every shot on a 6, every hit on a 6, it goes to AP 1, and it's just absolutely devastating. You know, AP -2 heavy bolters, and they ignore cover, you're getting shredded. It's gonna mess you up. I mean, popping Imperial Guard, no problem.
Oh, no problem at all. And that's another thing about Marines that, you know, very few Marine armies that I see that are Imperial Fists. Ignoring that cover save is so huge when you have a lot of Primaire stuff, because everything you shoot is at least -1, and with the new Bolter Beta rule coming into full effect, you're getting 2 shots at 30 inches, which makes a huge difference on everything.
Oh, yes. Well, now we've talked a little bit about the meta and everything. We've talked about the tournament. Let's jump over to a wonderful new, or rather returning addition to 40K, and that is Apocalypse.
Yes.
I am so stoked about this, man.
So excited.
And it is going to be absolutely ridiculous. It looks like it's going to come out in kind of a box set that'll have a ton of dice, the manuals you need, a bunch of different cards for strategies, assets, things like that.
And they're bringing back templates.
And that makes me so happy.
Now, have you read how it's going to be set up?
Yes.
It starts with, you have an initiative phase. Players determine who has the initiative for the turn. Then there's an order phase. Set up reinforcements, issue orders to detachments, and get command assets. Then you have your action phase, which is moving, shooting, and all assault. All happens in the action phase.
Yep.
Now, after that is the damage phase, which is really weird how they set it up, but it makes sense. Resolve damage and morale for units. Note that since this comes after the action phase, a unit that's taken enough damage to kill them off can still do something before they go down. That is huge.
going to be absolutely epic. And I cannot wait for us to play our first game. That's probably going to be many hours spent getting everything ready to go.
If not, probably a 2-day game. I mean,
and I would be absolutely fine with that, because that will be fantastic. Honestly, if we needed to, we could make it a 4-player thing.
It would probably make it go a little faster.
Sure,
definitely.
sure.
Definitely.
And now they're bringing in movement trays. Like they're literally saying you may have so much infantry on the field, moving them individually isn't going to work. Here's some movement trays, like a Warhammer Fantasy Battle used to have.
Yes, I saw that. And honestly, movement trays would probably help with all these demon spams that they're playing in just 2,000 point armies now.
Oh yes, absolutely.
I mean, because there's so many models, and all you have to be is 9 inches away, and it would be so much easier to just be able to set the movement tray down, you know. And of course, they took that from the original, you know, Warhammer Fantasy game.
Mm-hmm. Yep, when you had everything kind of moving up in formations and stuff like that, and that was one thing. Like I read the old, I guess, battle tome or whatever they used to call them for Bretonia, who were the knights. They're kind of like a mix of Arthurian and French kind of mythology and everything, like the Lady of the Lake, and you know, all chivalry and everything, because the Empire was like Germany back in the day. You know, the Holy Roman Empire, just very brutal, very, you know, whole lot of peasants and stuff like that. But Bretonians had like different formations for their cavalry, their knights. And, you know, you could have like a wedge formation, you could have the square block, and each one of them granted a different thing when you charged into combat. And it was so neat to me. And I think applying something like that to Apocalypse might be a little much, but it would be neat to see maybe certain formations, certain battle lines and things like that have an effect in regular 40K. You know, maybe it unlocks a special stratagem for them if you set them up a certain way or something like that. That would be pretty neat to me.
Definitely. No, I completely agree. I think, like you were saying, you know, set them up as the triangle or a square, you know, or a straight line, you know, across the battlefield would give them each a different, you know, not a stratagem per se, but, you know, each a different ability.
Right.
The way they set up, you know, because some things you're going to want it in a triangle. That way, if you get, you know, if you're set up this way, the guy in the front might have a 3+ save. Well, the 2 guys behind them might have 3+ save, but then the 3 and the 4s and the 5s behind them might get the saves from the people in front of them.
Right.
You know, additions like that, I think it would be really easy to add it in there. Like I said, and they're still working on it.
Oh yeah.
So there's always opportunity for that, and I'm hoping they take that into consideration on especially using the whole moving trays and everything now.
Oh, absolutely, and it really makes me excited. I do think this is a new era for GW. A lot of people used to have a lot of complaints with them over the last few editions, especially around 5th, 6th, and 7th. We don't talk about 4th.
4th never happened.
No, I don't know why it went to 5th. I mean, I don't remember anything in between 3rd and 5th, so that's weird. But yeah,
But 8th edition changed the entire game.
Oh, it absolutely did.
I mean, it did 100%. It changed the entire game.
I mean, the loss of hull points or insta kill on vehicles and stuff like that, because nothing sucked worse than bringing your Land Raider Redeemer up into a unit of Imperial Guardsmen, spraying them down with holy redeeming fire and assault cannon shells, and then the next turn, the last dude left alive in a squad armed with a melta-gun just disintegrates your, 300 and something point tank.
Oh no, I felt the same way. It was, you're running a Land Raider up, just a normal one, and then you have a drop pod with a squad of Grey Hunters with 2 melta guns and a Kami melta.
Mm-hmm.
That Land Raider's gone with a 185 point squad.
Yes.
It was terrible.
Yes. Or you wind up with like a 210-point squad a stern guard with compy melted. And like only 3 fire in that turn. It's like, well, it was nice knowing you, big tank. Have fun in have fun in Valhalla. Witness me.
My 120 points just made themselves worth 340.
All right. That's always
like I said. Eighth really changed it, and I like the way it changed it.
Absolutely.
I really do. I really do.
Absolutely. And I think GW is doing a good job. If they could just come off their prices a little bit, I do understand the cost in producing new molds and things like that. But as far as designing them, they really don't have sculptors anymore. Everything's done on 3D imaging software and things like that. They're basically computer-generated models that they then 3D print the molds for.
Yes, exactly. Like I said, there's no design really to it. It's all digital now.
Mm-hmm. And I understand you do need genuine artists who are also skilled in computer-generated 3D imaging and design. I get that you got to pay those folks pretty well. I understand, to keep them there so they don't go somewhere else. But it's for the user base. Nick Rekieta, I talked about this the other day. Nick Rekieta is a guy I watch on YouTube. I enjoy his content, and he was at a panel at Anime Matsuri, and he was asked about 40K because he's a big fan. Well, all his knowledge and everything is from the lore, and he made the joke about when he was a kid, he didn't have a house to mortgage to get an army. And that's one thing about 40K that's always been kind of a sticking point with the people who play it, is how expensive the models are. And now you got people wishing for the days in like 5th edition when a box of Terminators was only $45 or $50.
No, it was 40. It was $39.99.
Yeah, there you go, $40.
I remember clearly. And you would think, removing the people who were designing these and molding these and making it all digital, that the cost would go down. But it's been the complete opposite.
Yes.
I get supply and demand, but like I said, at some point, you got to realize, like, a lot of people want to play this game. It is an expensive hobby. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Oh yes, and it's tough. It's tough for people to get into because of the expense. But I think they've shored a lot of that up with Kill Team.
You beat me to it. I was just about to say that. I can't tell you how many times of new players that I've played that said they started with Kill Team and it just molded them in to full-blown 40K because of how much fun it was. It's just, and with 8th edition, the rules are a lot more simplified than they were in 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Yes, absolutely. And we've always been quick playing our games because we know how each other thinks. We know, hey, if we lose this, that's pretty much going to be it. Or what our tactics are going to be for the next turn and everything. And
we've been playing each other for 17 years. So.
Yes.
We can kind of read each other. We can play one turn and play the rest of the game out in our heads and be like, okay, you win.
Yeah, exactly. And so a 2,000 point game, they used to say, you can expect to play for 2.5, 3 hours. That is definitely not the case anymore in 8th edition. A 2,000 point game, you might, if it's non-tournament, if you're not really thinking about what you're doing, if you're just playing for fun, you'll probably get an hour and a half.
I mean, 2 hours max.
2 hours on the long side, yeah.
Right. That's the one thing I did not like about the tournament was that it was 2.5 hours. It was a minute and 15 per player.
Yep.
And I think you can get it all done because I mean if you're coming into a tournament with an army that you know the powers and everything, you shouldn't have to think about too much of what you need to do. And I think an hour per person on 2 hour rounds would be so much more efficient.
Yes.
And it would make players think faster, play faster, but still also that helps them learn faster on what they're playing against or what they're using.
Yes.
Like I said, I think it would be more efficient, but also get, the new people coming in, they need that extra time.
Right. And one thing I didn't like about the tournament was that your deployment counted against your time. You had to start the timer while you were deploying. So that it hurt me a little bit. It took more time off of my opponent in the first round, but after that, I don't think anybody cared about deploying on their time or anything. I did for all my matches, and we did all that. We still followed the rule, but I think after the first round of the tournament, everybody was kind of comfortable. They had already analyzed the boards and thought about where they would put their stuff based on where they were going to deploy.
Right.
Based on what deployment you got and you rolled on. So that helped a lot. But another thing was it hurt me. It actually really hurt me having so many dice to roll per game, especially with the Centurions. I mean, that's 24 shots per guy.
Plus your 2 Thunderfire cannons.
Yes, which they're pretty quick, but you have to roll to see how many shots you get. Then you got to roll your hits, and you got to do your re-rolls, and you got to roll your wounds. You got to do your re-rolls, and then unless your opponent agrees to it, while they're rolling their saves, it's on your time, and that hurts. That sucks a little bit.
Yes, it does. And we discussed that a couple tournaments ago about like when other people were trying to make decisions, after you shot them on, what they were going to do or what stratagems they were going to do. Should we stop the clock or should we change it over to their side? Like even in hand-to-hand combat, like when you charge, you go first. It should be on your time. Mm. But when it's their turn to attack, I think it should switch to their time because it's their time to attack.
And I agree.
But not everybody agreed on it, so it didn't happen.
Right.
But I think that's a fair way to do it.
Yes. And you will have some people who will fully take advantage of that, slow rollers. And they will try to screw you on your time and that's the thing, you don't really give up points or anything if you time out. You just cannot roll anymore. You can't move units. You can't roll for shooting, anything in your turn other than saving throws.
That's it.
So, and that hurts you. If you can't keep something off an objective when it comes around to your turn, and let's say turn 5, and you've already timed out, well, you're just SOL. You're done.
Exactly. I mean, you're going to get burned 4 to 5 points easily if you're out of time and your opponent has 8 or 9 minutes left, because he's going to get 2 turns in of movement, shooting, and everything else.
Yes.
To get his points to win.
And that was one of the things that hurt me in my first game against Todd, and it like didn't make me angry or anything, but it made me think, boy, I gotta speed myself up, and I gotta make sure that I'm doing everything as fast as I can because I've got so many dice. Because like I said, it's 72 dice for Centurion Hurricane Bolters alone. One squad, it's 72 dice.
And that's not including the heavy bolters that they carry. 2 apiece.
Yep. So you've got you've got 90 dice in total you've got to roll for one squad if an enemy is within 24 inches of them. That's a lot of rolling, and that's a lot of saves to be made, because when you're running them by a chapter master and a lieutenant, you've got re-rolls, and odds are, the way I roll, 2/3 of my misses are coming back as hits. About 1/3 of my wounds or missed wounds are coming back and being applied. So it does hurt.
Definitely. But that's another thing that, it still hurt me with my Alatoic army. I had 5 Wave Serpents,
yes,
3 Guardian squads with 3 Spirit Seers in 3 of the Wave Serpents. I had 2 Reaper squads, 3 squad jet bike squads that were all putting out 9 shots apiece, just like all the Wave Serpents were. So I had a lot of dice to roll, and I took up more time than my opponents every game.
Yeah.
And sadly, I had the same. We rolled, it's random determinant for deployment. I rolled the same exact deployment all 3 rounds.
Yep.
I had spearhead. We were playing corners, which sometimes did work to my advantage. Because everything I have moves 16 inches except for the Dark Reapers, which most people focus on anyways. So that gives me all the movement and all the other shots that I need to get in position to get my objectives or blast you off another one.
Right. Exactly. Dude, I gotta admit it, you've got such a nasty list with that. Those Wave Serpents and the Dark Reapers, man, because it's so tough making that decision. It's like, okay, if I don't fire on the Wave Serpents and I go after the Dark Reapers, I might wipe out the Reapers, but then I've got to deal with the Wave Serpents are going to be completely up in my face turn 2, dispersing those Serpent shields and just stacking up mortal wounds on me.
Oh, not only that, and it's if I get first turn, it's that stratagem that allows me to shoot with all my Dark Reapers, spend a command point, and put them back at the bottom of the building, which according to ITC rules, you cannot see, in to shoot in at them or shoot out.
Right.
So every turn I can move them up, and they always hit on 3+, inescapable accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I spend a command point, move them back down. So like I said, it really did work to my advantage against all those demon armies that had the numbers.
Oh, absolutely.
I had the number of shots and the movement to stay away, but still take enough out to, like, you can't make that many saves, even if you're rolling on like a 70+%, like, good rolls.
Right. Absolutely. It was just, man, it was nasty. It was an awesome tournament. Absolutely nasty. There's so much with shooting now. It's become so critical to be a shot heavy army if you're gonna have shooting. If you're gonna go all assault, let's say you run a pure Khorne berserker army or bloodletters and bloodthirsters, stuff like that, you can take the hits, no problem, and get into hand to hand, and you're absolutely gonna wreck something like Imperial Guard or Tau or even Eldar without heavy support. But if you're running a whole lot of infantry in Eldar this edition, personal opinion, I think you're doing it wrong.
Yes, I mean, even if you're playing Alatoic, if you're running a lot of infantry without your dedicated transports, which the only one is the Wave Serpent, which is, my opinion, the best tank in the game for the points. I mean, you really can't beat what a Wave Serpent does for how cheap it is.
Right. Not at all, man. Not at all. The Wave Serpent, personal opinion again, and I'm sure you will agree, it is the best tank in the game, bar none, just for the cost and what it can do in a turn, much less what it can do in 2 turns when it's up on you. Again, those Serpent shields, when you disperse them, it's D3 mortal wounds.
Yeah, automatic.
Yeah, it's like each tank has a smite that always goes
It
off.
is to the closest model, but you have enough shots to put out with them to get rid of what's in front of you to disperse them at what you need to put mortal wounds on, aka all the characters and psychers that all these demon armies are running.
Yes, absolutely.
Which it really worked to my advantage.
Absolutely.
100%.
And speaking of tanks, that's a nice little segue to our next little topic of discussion here. How about the Primaris Repulsor Executioner, dude?
Oh my goodness. With what you get and the points cost being 220 total with the extra gun is insane. I'm so excited for this tank.
I mean, it is just nasty. I mean, base regular weapon is a heavy laser destroyer. It's got a heavy onslaught Gatling cannon with it, twin heavy bolters, heavy stubbers, the little close-in fragmentation launchers that they've got. I mean, this thing is bristling with firepower. And not just that, and I'm looking at the heavy laser destroyer stats right now, a range of 72, so you can literally be on the be deployed on the short sides of the board and firing across the map, and you're reaching out and touching something. You get 2 shots with it. It's a heavy 2 with strength 10, AP -4, and D6 damage, but each roll of a 1 or 2 counts as 3 instead. So you are doing always 3 to 6 damage per wound.
And that is humongous. Just having that minimum of 3. Like I've noticed even with Predator autocannons, just having that straight 3 damage, even though it's -1, it adds up so quick on big stuff.
Absolutely.
Instead of that D3 on taking that random roll.
Absolutely.
I mean, it makes a huge, huge difference.
Oh, it does. It absolutely does. And the best part about this sucker, it's got a special piece of war gear for it called the Aquilon Optics. So it's pretty much the Lehman Russ turret gun special rule. You know, if you don't move or move less than half of your distance that you can, you get to shoot twice with the big guns.
And it's pretty much the same thing. It's strength 8. Is it D3 or D6?
The macroplasma incinerator, it's a heavy D6.
Yes, that's what I thought. I thought it was D6. Yeah. I mean, and that is insane because I mean, with that much range, you don't have to move but under half.
Yeah.
I mean, even on all the board setups that you can randomly roll, you can have that in range starting out.
I expect to see a few of these being fielded by Space Marine players for Apocalypse matches and stuff like that.
Definitely.
I would not be surprised to see maybe 2 run in 2,000-point games because it's 210 points with the gear.
And it's another 10 points for the extra gun.
So you're looking at 220, so 440 points. That is only 20 points more than my 2 Centurion squads of 3. 3 guys equipped with the Hurricane Bolter, Heavy Bolter loadout.
And think about all that it does, you know, how fast it can move and how fast you only need to move it, which, like you said, less than half, which is fine. And you look at the points cost of a Land Raider with 2 las cannons and a Heavy Bolter.
Yep.
Like you said, there's a 20 points difference, and you've got so much more. Like Marines are getting a big bonus with this tank.
Oh, absolutely. And you park this sucker in some terrain that obscures it, get you a good cover save, and just let it wail on enemy vehicles. Let it do its thing. And hey, if you've got guys coming up on you trying to hit you, like some specialists with anti-tank weapons, okay, yeah, heavy laser destroyer at the big tanks in the distance, and up close, hey, I've got onslaught Gatling cannon, heavy stubbers, I've got, twin heavy bolters. Yeah, come at me. Come on with it.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Especially, and it really depends on what faction you're playing. Like with Salamanders, it's going to work great with your rerolls to hit and the wounds. With Imperial Fist, you're going to be ignoring cover. So all your negative APs will help.
Remember the chapter tactics, they won't apply to this one.
Yes, you are correct.
Yeah,
they were telling me that on Saturday.
That's the one drawback with vehicles, other than dreadnoughts, and that's the reason why I run the dreadnoughts I run with the twin las cannon missile launcher set up.
Now I do know, like the Sicarian tanks and stuff, they do run off.
Yes.
The chapter tactics.
Yes.
That's why I run the Punisher in my Imperial Fist army.
Yes,
I mean, 27 shots. 27 shots, 36 inches, strength 5, -1, ignoring cover. You can't beat it. And if it doesn't move, it re-rolls its own ones without a captain near it.
Yes. So you can park it in a nice spot, get in cover for itself, and just absolutely punish medium infantry and things like that.
Even so heavy infantry. Yeah, I mean, with that, that amount of shots, even if it's just -1, re-rolling your ones. I mean, on average, you're going to get about 13 to 15 wounds.
Yes, absolutely.
And even, like I said, if you're shooting at like the heavy elite wolfing squads with all the 3+3+ and the ignores, you should kill 2 in a floater to maybe 3, depending on your average dice rolls.
Yes.
Which I will take all day, because a Punisher assault tank is only 175 points with 3 heavy bolters. That is insane.
You gotta love relics, man. You may only get to take one per army, but they are devastating, and there's a reason they are relics. Anything from Horus Heresy coming over into 40k makes me happy. Because
how can it not? I mean, it's not only just the rules that are great; the models are just fantastic.
yes.
I mean, Forge World puts out the best models in the world. Yes, some of them are pricey, but you know what? If you're passionate about the game and there's something you want, get it.
Yes.
It's always worth it because it makes you happy. It pays off in the end, and most of the time, it does what you want it to.
Absolutely.
And the one thing people have to remember, like if you use it one game and it doesn't do what you thought it would, it's a dice game. Sometimes the dice aren't on your side. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're average. You just never know. You just got to base it off the average rolls of what you're going to get and take that chance.
Yep. Absolutely. And you're exactly right. It is a numbers game. It is all about the dice. The biggest thing is doing everything you can to negate the dice turning sour on you.
Exactly.
And that's where the buffs and everything come in, and that's the great thing about this current edition of the game. I'm gonna say it. I'm an 8th fanboy. We've been playing since 3rd. You were playing about a year and a half, 2 years before me, and y'all brought me in on the tail end of 3rd. And
like I said, 8th completely changed the game.
Absolutely.
It to me, it simplified it a lot more with taking out the whole points and all that crap.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the rules are, like I said, they're a lot more blunt, to be, basic about it. They're a lot more blunt. So players who are just now coming in to 40K from Kill Team or anything like that, it's a lot easier and faster to learn. You don't have as many rules to remember and do all this, which even me or you that's been playing for 17 years or more, we still learn something every time we play.
Absolutely. That's
anybody that plays.
And that is the joy of Warhammer 40,000. And I think that's a good place to end it on. This has been a fantastic podcast. I think we've covered a lot. Folks, we will absolutely be back with another one, probably in a week's time. I have been Sumotacular.
And this is the Smed Head.
Thank you for joining us. Take care.
Roll Tide.